Hi, I'm Richard Rogers, and I absolutely hope that you enjoy today's spiritual message. You know, we at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center are committed to helping people live better lives. We're going to provide you tools over and over, spiritual tools that allow you to live your best possible life. And if you want to leave a donation to continue to allow the work that we do to support other people just like you, we say thank you. Thank you for your generosity, because this ministry is committed to making the world a better place.
Have you ever made your life more difficult than it needed to be? And did you ever fight that it had to be that way? Like, what's interesting about when we make life more difficult is we really believe we're right. Like when we're in our stuff and we're making life complicated, when we're in our drama, we really 100% believe that we're right, that it has to be that hard, right? Either we believe we earn that much drama or pain or whatever, or it's just what we know. Have you ever lived a more complicated life simply because that's what you learned? And then somebody teaches you a simpler life, and at that moment you really don't believe that's possible. Like it's like, well, that's really for the people that aren't very smart. Right? Because I really have this belief that the smarter we get, the more difficult sometimes we make life. And yet there are spiritual processes and principles that if we actually engage in them, literally simplify our life. But they're so simple that our mind wants to argue about them. Like, that's just cute, but that's not really a spiritual principle. Right? Or that's just cute. It doesn't really help. And so we never really engage it. We never really use it. We never really practice it in a way so that we can actually see if it makes a difference. And sometimes we're so involved in our drama, even when it does make a difference, we still want to argue about it. Have you been this place before, or is it just me? Right? Where you just are literally over and over and over again making it harder than it needs to be. Well, this month we are following the path of Thich Nhat Hanh. And we're using his little book, Pieces Every Step. And the idea of these steps is that every time we simplify our life, our spiritual life gets easier. It just does. So we began with this idea of smiling. Now, how many of you believe that smiling is a spiritual activity? Did you believe that before this month? Oh, see, you're all much more spiritually advanced than I am. That's fabulous, right? And the idea is smiling absolutely is the way that we master our emotions. How many of you are raised in a household where everybody's emotions were just totally out of control? Right? And the idea was that nobody had to take responsibility for their emotions because emotions just got free reign. They got to go in all directions, right? And the emotions would be high or they'd be low, they'd be up or they'd be down. And that nobody really ever wanted to take responsibility. Everybody wanted just to let their emotions just go crazy. Well, Thich Nhat Hanh, his first principle that he teaches is smiling. Now, if you're raised in an environment where your emotions get to go anywhere, smiling is an act of actually taking and bringing your emotions back under conscious choice, right? That you actually get to choose your emotional reaction to anything, and you're demonstrating that you've actually taken dominion and mastery over your emotions by the simple act of smiling. And it's like, well, that doesn't sound very spiritual. Right? But in reality, it's the most spiritual thing. That when you've literally mastered your emotions, you can actually smile at anything. And you just practiced it. That's where we began. Was this idea that we could just smile at anything. And not a fake artificial smile, but a real smile from our soul. And when we practice smiling from our soul, what happens is you actually literally get happier. Because absolutely, there's scientific evidence. I showed it to you 2 weeks ago. That the act of smiling actually changes your emotions. It changes how you feel. So for 2 weeks, hopefully, you've been practicing smiling. And my hope and my prayer is that you're more fluent in smiles. Right? That you've mastered more and more times when you wanted to be in your cranky self or you wanted to be in your victim self, that we could practice just smiling. Because it's a huge step when you go from your victim place to smiling, right? Does everybody have a favorite victim place? Right? Where you want to tell yourself, I'm the victim in this situation, I'm the victim of that situation, or I'm a victim to politics, or I'm the victim to the IRS, or I'm a victim to this, or I'm a victim to my spouse or my kids or the weather or whatever, right? And when you actually begin to smile, you realize that you have dominion. That in that moment, in your smile, you are a spiritual master. You are fully enlightened in that moment when you choose to smile instead of complaining about the weather. Now, today's weather was fabulous. Wasn't today's weather fabulous? Right? So we just smile. Like, tomorrow it's going to be 10 degrees cooler. What do? We smile. Because it's not 120. Right? And when it is 120, what do? We smile. Right? Because every time we move into a smile, we are claiming mastery, right? So you're with me on the smile. And then last week, we focused on breathing. Now, how much simpler can breathing be? How many of you know that you regularly breathe already all on your own, unconsciously over and over again, right? We have to breathe, but we don't have to breathe consciously. And when we begin to breathe consciously, we actually bring the full focus of our mind and our body and our heart into the breath. And the exercise we did last week was, I breathe out, I breathe in. Do it with me. Let's say it together. I breathe out, I breathe in. One more time. I breathe out, I breathe in. Right? That it actually moves us into conscious awareness so that we're not breathing unconsciously. We're not unconsciously in our drama. We're actually integrate back into our breath. And every time we come back in our breath, our mind, our heart, and our body come back together again. So that we're not all over the place. We're not scattered. We're not unconscious. We're not unaware. We begin to breathe. I breathe in. I breathe out. I breathe in. I breathe out. And then the last thing we shared was this idea of a hugging meditation. How many of you were here last week for the hugging meditation? Anybody practice the hugging meditation? The hugging meditation is that in a hug, you take 3 big breaths together. You actually breathe with the other person. And I had people all week. Can I have a huggy meditation? Yes. Can I have a huggy meditation? Yes, right? And so in the presence of the hug, you're breathing in and out. And what happens is, with another human being, in the presence of another human being, you have this resonant field that's created. It's a connection that you actually realize that you're conscious. Because has everybody hugged somebody totally unconsciously? Or hugged somebody you just literally did not want to hug, and it's like, ooh, how fast can I pat them to get it out? Right? And the hugging meditation is you bring them in, and you just breathe together. Right? So we breathe. So this week, I had a wonderful opportunity to practice smiling and breathing, right? Because those were my 2 things that we talked about. So this week, a deal that I've been working on for almost 5 months crashed. Right? And I got to practice. Right? I got to practice. I got to smile. I got to breathe. I got to smile and breathe at the same time as I'm watching it crash right before me. Smiling, breathing. God is right here, smiling, breathing. And then, because it got more fun, they took my mom to the emergency room on Friday. Paramedics did. She saw a doctor. The doctor misdiagnosed her. We spent all weekend trying to help her and took her to her GP on Monday. And he said, you have to immediately take her to the emergency room. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. He wrote this note and sent us directly there. And apparently, a fall that she had a week ago, the doctor, when they x-rayed her hip and her leg, there was no broken bones, but she had internal bleeding. So for a week she's been bleeding internally, and we've been doing everything in our power to help that happen. So she's on blood thinners, and we kept giving her blood thinners. We gave her pain medicine. So we were doing everything to help her have a bad experience unconsciously, unaware, not knowing. And then, Monday, when we took her, it was very much touch and go at the emergency room. And her condition was so serious that they put her in an ambulance and moved her to the trauma center on Osborne in Honor Health. And so all week long, I've had this opportunity to practice smiling and breathing. Because tell me how much I wanted to feel like a victim. How much? I wanted to feel like a total victim, right? That I wanted to feel victimized by the doctor who misdiagnosed her. I wanted to feel like a victim to the deal that crashed. I wanted to feel like a victim every time I turned around. I wanted to feel like a victim. And in my mind, I was 100% justified in feeling like a victim. Have you all had those experiences where you can actually point to the reason why you have earned the right to be a victim, right? And so I 100% had earned the right to be a victim, and all I got to practice was, And the reality is, it's what kept me sane. Does that make sense? Like, if I would have gone that way, that path, that thing, this would have been a very different experience for me. Was it traumatic? Yes. Did I go into my victim place? About that much. So over and over again, what I want you to see is that spiritual principles work, but only if you work them. Your life doesn't get easier if you keep doing the same thing you've always done, because it doesn't help. It didn't work then, and doing it 1,000 more times will never help. You'll never get a different outcome by doing the same things. And when we're in a moment of crisis, really crisis, we really want mentally to make it more complicated than it needs to be. And the reality is that when you're breathing and smiling, you actually come back to yourself. Does everybody have at least one thing in their life that they still feel completely victimized by? Nobody? A few of you? Great, right? What I want you to really practice is in that place where you feel the most victimized, I want you to really practice smiling and breathing. Well, Richard, I can't smile at my victim place. Well, how's it working not to smile at it? Right? So I want you to think of your victim place, whatever it is. If you don't have one, ask your neighbor to borrow one of theirs, or email me and I'll give you one of mine. Right? And I want you just to smile at your victim place. Just see if you can get a legitimate smile at your victim place. And now I want you to begin to breathe in and out right there. Breathe in and, oh, this is what I always do. Breathe out and in. Breathe out and in. And see if you can get to your still small place. See if you can feel your God place. Because the reality is, you know how to do it the way you know how to do it. And you could do it that way for another 1,000 years. Because in your mind, you're completely justified in feeling like a victim. But it's not spiritually moving you forward. It's not helping. It's not giving you dominion and mastery over your emotions. It's just teaching you that over and over again you're a victim. And when I'm a victim, this is what I do. And I completely justify that I get to do whatever I want to do because I am a victim. And we never actually move into mastery and we stay stuck. Okay, you with me? So that's the first 2 weeks. Now we're going into week 3. And week 3 is being in the now. Not the future, not the past, but right here. So I want you to imagine your house has only 3 rooms. Okay? Now, in those 3 rooms, the first room is the room of the past. And in the room of the past, you put a lot of things. You store a lot of things in your room of the past. In your room of the past, there is every pain that you've ever dealt with is in the room of the past, right? Every resentment, every upset, every disappointment, all the negativity that you haven't let go of, you haven't forgiven, you haven't released, is all in the room of the past. But not only just the negative, sometimes all the things of your past that you loved is in the past. Right? That sometimes your highlight reel and the best moments of your life are also in the room of the past, right? So the room of the past isn't just negative. Sometimes it's positive, but it's always about, is it about the present moment? No, it's always about the past. So that's one room. Then the other room is the room of the future. And in the room of the future is all your hopes and dreams and desires and fears and insecurities. All of those things are in the future. That's in your future room. Now, sometimes you love to go into your future room because mentally you've constructed all the stuff about your future, what your future is going to be like and what it's going to taste like and who you're going to be with in the future. And those are all future things, right? It's all in your future room, right? So you got your past room and your future room, and then there's this other room. And the other room is the present. And in the present room is where God is. And every spiritual thing is available in the present room. Like in the present room, there really is no lack. Because everything you need is always available in the now. In the present room is complete peace. Because in the present, when you move into the present, there actually is peace. When you move into the present, so all the qualities of God, peace and love and joy and abundance, are only truly available in the present room. Now, but we have these 3 rooms, right? And so sometimes we wander into the past. Sometimes we wander into the future mindset that we've created, how we think our life is going to be, both positive and negatively, how we think it's going to be. But in mindfulness, in Thich Nhat Hanh's process, where he wants you to be is right here. Right here in the now. Because in the now, everything is right here. How many of you have ever heard about affirmations, the idea of affirmations, about speaking into the life that you want, right? Now, one of the things that's interesting about affirmations is that we're taught that affirmations aren't about the future, right? They're actually about the now. We're actually supposed to declare the reality that we want to be living right now, that it's really not about the future. That when we're making our life about the future, we've kind of missed the point. Because what happens over and over again is we realize that the past room and the future room only exist in our head. They're not real. Anybody seen the movie The Sixth Sense? Remember the movie, and if you haven't seen it, I'm going to give it away. So hold your ears right now because I'm about a spoiler alert, right? In the movie The Sixth Sense, we realize one of the characters is no longer really physically alive, right? And that's what happens when we actually begin to wake up to the now, is that we realize that the past was always just a ghost. And it may be a wonderful ghost or a painful ghost, but it's just a ghost. And we realize the future is just a ghost. That we may have wonderful hopes and dreams and expectations, or we may have fear, and we may create a mental future that's scary, but it's really just a ghost. It doesn't exist. That the only place that we can ever really live is right here, right now. And right here, right now, everything is provided. So I want you to just move into now. Afterwards. I want you to move into right here, right now. And now how do we do that? We come back to our breath. As we breathe in and as we breathe out and breathe in, we come into the now. Let me read how Thich Nhat Hanh said it. The present moment. In a busy society, it's a great fortune to breathe consciously from time to time. We can practice conscious breathing not only while sitting in our meditation room, but also by working or in the office or at home, while driving our car, while sitting in the bus, wherever we are at any time throughout the day. There are many exercises that we can do to help us breathe consciously. Besides the simple in and out exercise we recited, there is a 4-line prayer. Breathe in, I calm my body. Breathe out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. So we're going to say this together. Breathe in, I calm my body. Together. Breathe in, I calm my body. Breathe out, I smile. Together. Breathe out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, together. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. He goes on. Oh, I know this is, together. I know this is a wonderful moment. All right, here we go. So breathe in, I calm my body. Reciting this line is like taking a drink of cool lemonade on a hot day. You can actually feel the coolness penetrating your body. And when I breathe in, I recite this line, I actually feel my breath calming my body and my mind. I breathe out and I smile. You know, a smile can relax 100 of your facial muscles in your face. Wearing a smile on your face is a sign that you have mastery over yourself. I love that line. Smiling is mastery over yourself. Dwelling in the present moment, while I sit here, I don't think about anything. I sit here. I know exactly where I am. I know this is a wonderful moment. It's a moment to sit in the joy, stable and at ease, to return to my breath, our smile, our true nature. Our appointment with life is this present moment. If you do not have the peace and the joy right now, when will you have peace and joy? Tomorrow? The day after tomorrow? What is preventing us from being happy right now? As we follow our breath, we can simply, calmly, smiling, present moment, wonderful moment. This exercise is not just for beginners. Many of us who've been practicing meditation and conscious breathing for 40 or 50 years continue to practice in the same way, because it is the kind of exercise that is so important and easy. All right. So every time you're upset, are you in the past or the present? Are you in the past, the future, or the present? Every time you're upset, you're either in the past or the future. Because right now, everything you need is provided. And if we stay in the right now, every moment is fully self-contained. Well, Richard, What about next Friday? Well, maybe if we stay in the moment, by the time we stay in the moment, next Friday will actually take care of itself. That's what Jesus said. Don't you have enough to worry about that you don't have to go into the future? Can you just stay right here, right now, and breathe? What I want you to see is over and over again, we are so wound up that until we learn to stop and move all of our energy into the present moment, we are just looking for trouble. Let me give you another quote. Life is only available in the present moment. If you abandon the present moment, you cannot live the moments of your daily life. Thich Nhat Hanh. Many of us have been running all of our life, but the moment we practice stopping, everything changes. What I want you to see tonight is just how much we spend in those 3 rooms instead of right here. And what would happen if you just, every time you noticed that you're even getting a little bit agitated, a little bit upset, a little bit frightened, a little bit resentful, a little bit upset in any direction, that you just come back to here. So guess what your homework is for this week? Stay right here. Don't go into the future. Don't go in the past. Now, I know that because we did our Maria Kondo stuff, that we have already cleaned out all the rooms in our house, right? We've cleared out our closets and our stuff, and we are just clean as a whistle from top to bottom, right? But I want you to feel this. I want you to feel this. That when you're not leaning into your future or leaning into your past, every day becomes so much easier. When you're not stressed about tomorrow or angry about yesterday, every day becomes so much easier. And in this moment, where you're in the moment, is really an act of faith that God's going to provide everything you need in the next moment. So you just stay right here, right here, right here, knowing that as you stay right here, everything is fine. Everything is fine. Will you pray with me? And I invite you just to take a deep breath. Holy Spirit, I want to stay right here. I want to stay right here in the now. And if I get ahead of myself and I start thinking about the future, bring me back to now. And if I start going back into old thoughts and old resentments, I bring me back to right here, right now. And then I'm willing to bring my full focus of attention into this moment. And smile. And breathe. And be right here. Right here. In the actual experience I'm having. That right here, right now, is the only place I can actually connect with God. Right here, right now. So in the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen.